Overeaters Anonymous is a fellowship of individuals who, through shared experience, strength and hope, are recovering from compulsive overeating. We welcome everyone who wants to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for members. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, neither soliciting nor accepting outside donations. OA is not affiliated with any public or private organisation, political movement, ideology or religious doctrine. We take no position on outside issues. Our primary purpose is to abstain from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviours, and to carry the message of recovery through the 12 steps of OA to those who still suffer. How our meeting works. We follow a rotating format. On the second week of the month is a recovered OA speaker who will be speaking on the topic of their choosing for 30 minutes. There will be a follow-up question and answer segment for 15 minutes where fellows are welcome to ask any question of our speaker which are related to the topic in question. This meeting will be recorded by audio only. You will see a recording sign at the top of your screen. The Q&A section of our meeting will also be recorded, but please post only in the chat function your questions to our host Georgina, and Georgina will ask the question anonymously on your behalf. Please do not do this before the Q&A segment opens. Before we share, it is time for our 7th tradition. Although we are meeting electronically, we still have Zoom meeting costs to pay, and we also give contributions to OA UK EB, which is our virtual intergroup. Please make our virtual intergroup. Please make a contribution using the PayPal or bank details that will be entered in the chat now. I just will say there that we have been made aware that there's a problem with the link at the moment. I'm not sure if it has been resolved yet. So if you do get a problem, please hold on to your contributions and make them all at once. We'll need to check in with the service group to see if it's been resolved. So before we go over to the speaker, I'm realised that there's no, we haven't asked for the readings to be done. So could I please have a volunteer to read the 12 steps?
We don't do the steps and traditions on Speaker Week.
Oh, that's not a mistake. There's me thinking I rule the show. Funny old that. Making up my own rules as I go along. Great. Okay, so back to the script. I thought that was going to be a mistake. My apologies. Okay, so we've talked about 7 traditions. Today is a speaker meeting, and we are blessed and honoured, I can't see you now, to have Matthew here to share his experience, strength and hope. Matthew has already told us that he'd like a timer at 20 minutes. So we'll have that arranged for you, and Alan's going to do that for us today. So over to you, Matthew. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew, and I'm a compulsive overeater, and I'm very grateful to thank you for inviting me to speak today. It really is honestly an honor and a privilege, but I am very nervous. I'm new to this. I am recovered. I have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected from compulsive overeating and compulsive food behaviors. I've been abstinent since February 23rd of last year, so over a year, and it's just an absolute miracle. And I came to OA through because I'm also an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I came to my first AA meeting here in Paris, where I live, on October 16th, 2018. And I've been clean and sober since that very first meeting, and it's an absolute miracle. And I came to discover, realize I guess about a year and a half ago, or I would say in January of 2022, that what I knew about Overeaters Anonymous because of being but I didn't really know what it meant to be a compulsive overeater. And once I did a little bit of investigation and I spoke to somebody who was in OA, and that I answered the questionnaire, I was like, I identified 100% and realized that I, in fact, was definitely 100% the real deal compulsive overeater, and that actually it was my primary addiction since I was a child. And my first childhood memories are, literally, I was the youngest of 5 kids, not that I had to do anything, but, just never having enough to eat. And I remember my first childhood memories of when I was like 3 years old, picking chewing gum up off of the middle of the street or sidewalks to get the little bit of sugar that was still on there, and eating dirt. And then the sort of obsession with food and my weight was very, very young. I remember in first grade, we were asked to make a little storybook, whatever we wanted. And what I did was my book was about, this is a true story, was about a scientist that invented a magic potion in a test tube to make fat people skinny. First grade, 7 years old. So anyway, I struggle also with, and I began skipping breakfast in elementary school, and then skipping breakfast and lunch in junior high, and did that for, and then that was my way of trying to control it. And then of course binge as soon as I got home from school, and then rinse and repeat. So I want to, I just want to qualify, a little bit, but I also want to talk about, what happened. And when I came to the rooms of AA, I was definitely dying. I was going to die of alcoholism, and I was hell-bent on trying to control my drinking, and like every alcoholic, and I'd been through periods where I would stop, and then I would, and the same thing with food, stop, and then I thought, oh, I had this down, and then it was. My story is that I went to try to see this addiction counselor person, to not to stop drinking, but to control my drinking. And he suggested AA. And I was so mad, and I came home, and I was in the kitchen where I am right now here in Paris, and I knew there was English speaking AA in Paris, and I opened on my phone, I guess it was the preamble, of a meeting, and the only thing that struck me was the only requirement for membership is a desire to quit drinking, to stop drinking. And I thought, I have zero desire to quit drinking, and I don't want to be a member. I do not want to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you very much. And just then, this very loud thought or voice came into my head. Was, Matthew, are you listening to your true voice? Or are you listening to the voice of your addiction? And it was this moment of like the hair stood on my head. It was just the most freaky thing. And then the same voice said, why don't you check out what these 12 steps are? Because I'd heard 12 steps, 12 steps. And so on my phone, I found on, I think it was the UK, anyway, the 12 steps came up in English. And as I very, very slowly read each step, just one step. I sort of contemplated on that one step or the next one. I had a spiritual experience. And I was like, I want to go to that school. I thought it was a school. I was like, because I ran away to Paris when I was 18, when I just got out of high school. So I'd never been to school. It was the lead singer in a rock band, all this stuff. And so I could drink and drug and eat all I wanted. And so I was like, I want to go to that school. So that's when 2 days later, I found myself down at the American Cathedral in Paris, down in this crypt. This beautiful crypt, this beautiful Gothic crypt, and it's a holy place where actually you bring dead people. And I came to the right place because I was spiritually dead inside, but I was honestly brought back to life, and it was just incredible. And my compulsion to drink and drug, because I'm also a drug addict, was lifted very quickly. And that great fact opened my faith completely in the program, in the steps, in God of my understanding, who had no idea, but just it opened up this complete 100% childlike faith. And that stuck with me. And that's why I chose I was asked to pick a theme, and Rona told me to pray on it, and I prayed on it, and what came to me was childlike faith versus self-centered fear. So those are my alcoholics. So let me tell you about over. So fast forward to January of last year, when I realized that I was, and by the way, so I quit, drinking and drugging, but of course my compulsive, and I thought I was going to lose weight, but it was the contrary. I was just like, oh my gosh, I was just like, the weight just started pouring on, because I was told, to put, sugar in my coffee and eat ice cream. Well, you didn't have to tell this compulsive eater twice to do that. And so I was just like, putting literally like, anyway. So when I realized that I was a compulsive overeater, I was like, well, I know the 12 steps work. So this is great. So I'm going to, and I totally lucked out, because what happened to me is that God love Google. I was Googling, Overeaters Anonymous, and I came across this on YouTube, this steps 1 through 3 workshop given by Janet B. and Melissa C. using the big book of steps 1 through 3, but for Overeaters Anonymous. Completely like blew my mind, and just like it was like, and they both recovered, and it was just, and I listened to that, and I still listen to it. I've listened to it, I would probably over 100 times, and then through after like really getting like a really solid, what I consider a solid recovery through Big Book. As a compulsive overeater, really using the Big Book as a compulsive overeater, and the AA 12 and 12, I should say, but or compulsive overeating. I found other members, and I ended up actually finding, I'm sure you all know, A Vision for You, and that's just been, and that's how my first meeting. So when I finally figured out what A Vision for You was, it was on May 1st of last year, and it was a Sunday special edition. And I had no idea who was speaking or what it was. I didn't even know it was a special edition anyway. I got on, and guess who the speaker was? Melissa C. Talking about more about alcoholism. And she starts out with her wonderful special edition, saying, my talk is about more about alcoholism, but it could have been more about why I need a higher power, and just blew my mind. It was like, I couldn't believe it. I was just I've been going every day my first, 7 o'clock meeting was on May 2nd, and Brona was the first one to reach out to me on that day. So yeah, so I go every day to, if I can, go live. I listen, but I try to. It's kind of cool because it's my lunchtime hour here, and I normally do the full 2 hours and really just get a lot out of it. But let me talk about why I chose childlike faith versus self-centered fear. Childlike faith. So in the big book, they actually say, they talk about the Wright brothers, and Will actually says childish faith, but I think he really meant childlike. That it was their childlike faith. It wasn't their their incredible scientific ingeniosity or whatever. It was their childlike faith, and that how, for me, what I think what works for me, what I could, if anybody's struggling, what I wish I could transmit is that, keeping and maintaining that childlike faith in empowering yourselves, but not only empowering yourselves, I want to say also in the steps and in practicing the steps. And also just the idea of childlike faith reminds me of, like some of the Bible verses about, the pure of the heart, being pure of heart, and blessed are the children, having a childlike heart, to have conscious contact with God, is for me super key. So, but I say versus self-centered fear. And why I want to talk about self-centered fear is because, in the AA 12 and 12, it is mentioned, I think, on page 76, when it's on the end of step 7, it talks about, it actually says, the chief activator of our character defects has been self-centered fear. And I just, it's funny, there was a wonderful talk on Vision just about fear. I had no idea. And I guess that, for me, when in my inventories, when I identify my fears, I don't because some people will do I'm afraid of this because my father hit me or something, where, I go straight to, I look at what instinct it affects maybe, but primarily, like in the big book, it just says, we ask ourselves, are we relying on finite self or infinite God? Are we relying on self or are we relying on God? And for me, this is really key to see and understand that 9 times out of 10, or 10 times out of 10, I'm, if I'm upset about something, I'm in self-centered fear. And I think it's also, for me, I found that it's been really part of my spiritual awakening is when I identify my fears, of actually looking at how they are self-centered. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's, and for me, it's very freeing, because if there's one thing that I know I've got to be rid of, is my selfishness. The word selfish is mentioned 13 times in our literature. So maybe it's like a sign. And it just might be my problem, you know. So so for me, the daily process, or the daily process that I go through is very much that, is very much, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I need to reset. And sometimes it takes me longer than other, but but I need to reset, and I need to bring it back to step one every morning. Not so much in the step one of conceding to my innermost self, you know, that although that's super, and I was like super important, that is like that, you know, that I'm a compulsive overeater and always will be, and it's only going to get progressively worse. But accepting just my powerlessness, but in the sense that without God, I'm nothing, you know, just, you know, resetting that I'm not running the show, that I'm no longer in charge, you know, that I've, you know, I forget, you know, remember, you fired yourself, Matthew, you know, you're no longer in charge. You're powerless. Okay, you're no longer the manager. Guess what? Cool, good news though. You have a manager, you have like the best director in the world now, who's restoring you to sanity. And for me, sanity means not only a healthier and a healthy mind, but a healthy body and a healthy spirit, one day at a time, just a little bit healthier mind, a little bit healthier spirit, and a little bit healthier body, one day at a time. If I continue to try to follow the directions of my Creator, and for me, I find the directions in the big book. I don't try to, like, you know, have this, you know, psychic connection, which that's not true. I do, but but for me, like, the directions are, it's like, you know, it's like, it's really, it's I got to watch out for dishonesty, selfishness, fear, self-centered fear, and resentments, you know, and I need to strive towards honesty, unselfishness, in the 12 apps, in the 4 absolutes of the Oxford groups, they talk about purity. And it's interesting, you know, I've heard that the opposite of purity is resentments. So I like that a lot. And love. You know, I need to strive towards love, to be more loving, you know, and one day at a time, I'm learning more what love is and how to love. And also, as I'm sure everybody knows, you know, the opposite of love, or at least for me, I believe the opposite of love is fear. So, you know, this whole idea of childlike faith versus self-centered fear, it's like, you know, it's like love versus fear, you know, and
About 10 minutes left.
oh, great. Yeah, I hope I'm making some kind of sense. I mean, I should have made more clear plan of what of how this talk would go. I've never done this before, so so I'm clearly all over the place. But yeah, I like I do I also, I want to say about the childlike faith. Also, in the childlike, you know, there is enjoying it. There's a sense of, like, you know, and I know that my God wants me to be happy, joyous, and free. And like the idea of childlike as well, you know, I have to have complete faith, like a child has with their father, you know, and also, you know, have fun, you know, and also know that my daddy, that my father, my creator loves me so much that like if he had a refrigerator, my picture is on it for sure. and I want to stress that as well, is I yes, sometimes, sometimes practicing these principles in all my affairs is work. It's not always fun, but most of the time I try to make it fun and try to enjoy it, and just as long as I, try to be as honest as I can and as pure as I can and as loving as I can, and open-minded as I can, and as willing as I can to continue to do this work. And I love that it's a never-ending, that we never graduate from this school that I came to and that I love so much. And you all are my teachers, yeah, I think that's all I got, and I'd love to answer some of your questions. And thank you so much for asking me to share.
Oh, thank you so much, Matthew. That was brilliant. Wonderful to hear you. Thanks. So we're now just going to hand over to Georgina. As we said before, please, if you do have questions for Georgina, can you please type them in the chat? Georgina will then read them out for Matthew to answer. Yeah, I think, I'm sorry, I've lost my... yeah, so I'll hand over to Georgina, and Georgina will pick up from the chat.
Thanks, Linda.
Lovely, thank you, Linda, and thank you so much, Matthew, for that wonderful share. It was just took us on a real journey, and it was incredible. So thank you so much. And if anyone's got any messages or questions that you'd like to put to Matthew, if you could direct message me, and I will ask them and put them to Matthew. So Matthew, the first question I've got for you is great share. And how do you manage 3 programs?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Thanks. That's a really good question. Well, actually, I don't have 3 programs. With AA, my drug, which was actually my drug was marijuana. I just handled that through with the AA. It just was part of. I knew that it was part of this. So just 2 programs, AA and OA. And how do I manage it? Wonderfully. I love them both. But if I'm being really, really rigorously honest, I prefer OA now. I mean, just because I feel like it's my primary addiction, and I also feel like it was definitely my primary addiction, and I just love the community in OA. It's just like I really found like I found my peeps. So and I also feel like I can be more helpful. I feel like there's not that many men that are so, I don't know. I feel like I can be of more of help in OA than maybe in A. I don't know. But how do I manage them? I love both. I love both. I love it. I'm super grateful for both. I just love the steps. I love the big book. I love, yeah. I love the spiritual aspect of the program. I love it.
Thank you, Matthew. So your next question is, how do you know when you're in God's will or your own will?
That's such a good question. Oh, that's such a good question. it's real hard sometimes. It's real hard sometimes. If it's a kind and loving thing, that's pretty good indicator that I'm in God's will. It's interesting. Another thing I wanted to maybe touch on that I didn't talk about was that I also love the 11-step prayer, or the prayer of St. Francis, about asking God to make me a channel or an instrument. I like to say a channel and an instrument of God's peace, and especially bringing joy that where there's sadness, I think that our steps allow us to, especially, to in a sense get our character defects out of the way, especially the ones that don't serve us as an effective instrument, and whatever it is that we do, to become a more effective instrument to serve. And it can be through our work. I'm lucky enough to my work, actually, I can really do that. It's great because I can really, and I think everybody can, no matter what we do, we can practice these principles in all our affairs. So that means, with your home life, with your family, your friends, the person at the checkout, that and at work. That's all. I'm sorry, I sort of got off topic.
Thank you. So next question, Matthew, is I have found that my relationship with my higher power has expanded so much in recovery, and it's quite different from when I made initial contact. Can you talk a little bit about how your relationship has grown?
Oh gosh. Well, I had become completely disconnected from my higher power, and I had completely, I had no, so that's the craziness of it, is that all is required is a little bit of willingness. I had no conception of power greater than myself, but all I heard is all you had to do was be willing. I was completely open. I had zero, I'd never been to a church with my parents. I was very interested when I was a young child in going to church, and I did, like with your friends next door and stuff. And I was very interested, and I had some pretty interesting spiritual experiences when I was a little kid. And even when I was an early freshman in high school, that's another story. But then very quickly became disconnected, especially with the drugs and alcohol. Became disconnected, completely disconnected from 100% disconnected. So to answer that question, I have found, and continue to seek, will never stop seeking. It reminds me of the ABCs. I love that so much. A, we admit we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, realize that no human power could solve our problem, and that God could and would if he were sought. So I'm going to continue seeking, I practice. I'm really into I love the prayer and meditation. I do it throughout the day. I also, like it talks about in the A 12:12 about there's a direct linkage between self-examination and prayer and meditation, bringing my step 10 to 11, and I do that throughout the day. It's not just an evening, and I'm also really into, and my meditation is, I like mindful meditation, but I'm more into contemplation. I love contemplating, just like literally on the steps sometimes. Just literally contemplating. Like contemplation is like slowly thinking and taking in the meaning, and also love contemplating on Bible verses. And just anywhere. Sometimes I love just like taking the big book, just anywhere, and just like opening it like there, and then just contemplate on that. just really take it in, and then sometimes have sort of like a little conscious contact moment with God of like asking and then receiving. It's not written for me. I'm not much of a writer. I'm more of like and I do this in water. I swim every morning. It's very important. I love being in the water in the morning and swimming, but not only just to swim for exercise, but I also love doing prayer and meditation and kind of a reset baptismal kind of experience in the water every day. Yeah. What was the question?
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you, Matthew. The next question's quite similar in that the person asking the questions wanted to thank you for your share and ask you to share more about your connection and how you maintain your connection with higher power. So you kind of already touched upon that, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it's never ending. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. And the more I go on my path on this journey of recovery, it's like the more exciting it becomes, because it like really is. I like really am getting more conscious contact, and I would say it's throughout the day, it's throughout the day, and noticing when, it was so interesting, yesterday, at work, I caught myself gossiping. And I came back home, and at the meeting on Vision yesterday, everybody was talking about gossiping. I was like, oh my gosh, and it was just great. It was just great because I was able to it was just so great because actually the person that I was gossiping with is also in program. And so I was able to call her and be able to just talk about it. And we talked about it again today, and it was just like, and so I was able to bring, I'm able, that's like what we're talking about, the direct linkage between self-examination and prayer and meditation, as it's mentioned in the AA 12 and 12 on step 11. That's just an example of where I can bring that to God, and that's what I was trying to point out about, in the big book, it talks about, when in the beginning of the day we ask for God's will, which I tend to do, but I need hints. I need the reminders of being honest. I need Post-its reminding me about honesty and watching out for honesty, selfishness, fear and resentments. I need the directions of the big book to remind me, because which is another reason why I also like when I talk about contemplation. Sometimes it can just be like on a principle or a step. I don't know if that makes sense.
Thank you, Matthew. It does, yeah. The next question is, thank you for your honesty. How do you overcome your resentments, and how do you give up your expectations?
Well, there's two different questions. Wait, so how do I get rid of my resentments? Well, to be honest, I found step 4. So 4 and 5 sort of went together for me, especially with my first AA sponsor. And for me, when I'm, and it, even to this day, and again, it comes back to my theme today about selfishness. When I have resentment, and when I put it through the chart, see what part of self it affects, da 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 da, and when I see how I'm being selfish there, when I see my own selfishness or my self-centered fear, it's gone. It's just like it's gone. It's gone. I don't even need to it's removed. It's instantaneous. It's miraculous. It's that miracle of transformation of hate, a freaking hate or anger or resentment, or we want to call it jealousy or whatever, into love, really. I mean, or at least gone, yeah. Yeah, for me, it's for me, the program really works like that. That's just it's just gone. It's just gone. Thank you, God. It's like, thank you, God. And what was the other question about expectant? See?
It was, how do you give up your expectations?
I don't understand the question. I give up my expectations. For me, I expect that my God is going to restore me to sanity. Like step 2, came to believe. It's like I expect, or maybe that's step 3. I don't know, but those. But maybe that's not the kind of expectations we're talking about. I don't know. My expectations are what?
I kind of read it as having high expectations and wanting things to go your own way. How have you given up having expectations of things going along your will? That was one way I perceived it.
No,
that question.
I don't. No, I don't think I do. I don't know. No, but I'm also super I'm like super blessed. I'm like with work is, I'm super blessed with the love, family. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's like every day is every moment, like everything's a gift for me right now. The only thing that's got me, my parents are still alive, but they're getting old. They're really old, 90, and my dog, who I love so much, is getting really old, so there's that, and it's like I know I'm gonna have to be dealing with, saying goodbye to them sometime soon, but I definitely 100% believe in the afterlife, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've had stuff come up in recovery, and that where I've I've been confronted with stuff, especially when I got sober, and I've had things like, especially with my career, that have come up, and that stuff that has not gone my way, and thanks to the program, and especially like the older version of the Serenity Prayer, it says, that accepting each pathway, each hardship that we have as a pathway to peace. And so the hardships that I have had in my recovery, I've taken that as an opportunity, as a new and pathway to peace, to a greater sense of peace, to a greater sense of serenity. The hardship. If that makes sense.
Thank you, Matthew. If anyone else would like to post some questions, that'd be wonderful. We've still got some time. The next question, Matthew, is how have your fears transformed as a result of your recovery program in more recent times in OA?
That's such a beautiful question. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like when it's so weird because, you know, it's like the more I release my self-centered fears, the greater my childlike faith grows. It's so, I can't explain it. It's a mystery. And you know what? That's something else I love about the program is it's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's mysterious, you know, and I love that. I love that. You know, I embrace that. I embrace the mystery. You know, it's like the phenomenon of craving. And I didn't talk about that. I meant that was one thing that I also love about how Overeaters Anonymous can, being compulsive, really can, you can really, that the big book is like really exactly the same thing, this phenomenon of craving. And for me, the importance was so fundamental was finding out which foods. I'm so glad I forgot. God, this is like the most important thing. I didn't freaking talk about it. Was like figuring out or finding out which, you know, conceding to my innermost self, which specific foods generated the phenomenon of craving for me. None of this yellow stuff. No, I had to get real honest, and that was great. And also, of course, I go to food plan. I weigh and measure my meals. Sorry, I don't think I even said that. I do weigh and I want to say nutritionist. And actually, ended up getting my meal plan off of a new plan of eating, OA, which Overeaters Anonymous, a new plan of eating. Awesome. And I love my food plan, and I weigh and measure my meals, 3 way to measure meals a day, and with none of my alcoholic foods that generate the phenomenon of craving. And what I mean that the phenomenon of craving means is that we don't understand it. You know, it's a phenomenon. It's and so, you know, we need a, you know, a spiritual, mysterious. We need a spiritual solution to a unexplainable, mysterious disease.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, the next question is, firstly, to thank you so much for your share. And could you also say something about the service that you do?
Oh, well, well, so I have a sponsor now, which I like really big book way, and it's just I love it. So that is this month I'm reading the 12 steps out loud on the on the Vision for You on Fridays. You can hear me live recorded reading the 12 steps with my beautiful voice. And I'm joking. And I again, but I also think that we need to always need to be service minded in the sense of that I'm, you know, again, trying to be, oh, that was something else that I love, that I wanted to read was, you know, the idea of being happily and usefully whole, being useful, being of service, you know. It's in the AA 12 and 12. My sponsor read this the other day in on the Vision. He says, it says in the foreword to the AA 12 and 12, it says, AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink, or compulsive overeating in our case, and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. So this concept of being happily and usefully whole is being of service. So it's not just, you know, me reading the 12 steps or sponsoring or, you know, it's also in all our affairs, in all my affairs. I need to, like, you know, and I all the time? No, no. Do I, you know, does my self-will come back? Yes, you know, But I have to keep in mind, I'm not a saint, but I do need to keep in mind that we are headed towards perfection. Towards perfection. That's direction. What's, again, God's will, it's towards towards perfection. And I need to keep that in mind a lot, because sometimes I can
Thank you, Matthew. The next question is, what's your favourite Big Book quote?
Oh, that's a really good question. But it's hard because I like them all. I mean, you can look at my, and you see all the, I don't know. I mean, I could just, that's so, oh my gosh. I don't know. I just everything. I love, I'm just one thing, we repeated over and over, and unless the person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. An entire psychic change. My sponsor, who I love, who's awesome, Pete B. He says, this isn't a psychological program. It's not, it's, although we do talk about moral psychology but he says it's not a psychological change, it's a psychic change. It's a spiritual program. What's my favorite? I don't know. I just like, and it's like I was saying, it's like any page. I mean, look at this one. Oh my gosh. The vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. Again, phenomenon of craving. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. How cool is that? So, I mean, it's just like any page, any page, yeah. Maybe trust finite self, trusting that we trust finites, that's my favorite. When it talks about fear that's my favorite. We trust infinite God instead of finite self. That's my favorite. And which, again, reminds me of my awesome theme. Childlike faith versus self-centered fear. Same thing. Great question. Thank you. Sorry to be slippy. I don't mean to be flippant. I'm just having fun.
Well, Matthew, thank you. That's our time now, pretty much. But thank you so much for being in the hot seat and for bringing your joy and your recovery to us tonight. It's been a delight to have you. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Linda now.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. That was really, truly wonderful. And thank you, Georgina, for hosting the questions so fabulously this evening. Question time has now come to an end, and we're going to open the chat to share our numbers for outreach. For those who would like to, please share your name and numbers. Please could all available absent sponsors indicate if you are available to sponsor. For any newcomers, we have a newcomers hub where our newcomer greeter, I can see Cara, but I'm not sure, is it just you this evening, Cara? Okay, Cara will be happy to meet with you and answer any questions. So please raise your hand electronically if you would like to do that. And to raise your hand electronically, if you don't know, you can use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen and use the raise hand button, and we will put you into a breakout room there. This group also has a WhatsApp group for fellowship and inspiration between meetings. Please see the link in the chat that's being posted there now. and join us in our WhatsApp group. We'll close the meeting in the same way we always do, a New Freedom Big Book study, by reading the 12 Promises of Recovery as laid out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is on page 83, starting with the paragraph, if we are painstaking, and ends with, if we work for them. Could I please have a volunteer to read the promises? Is that you, Cara? Thank you. Thanks.
If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We shall intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you, Cara. And thank you for joining us today. Our meetings are reoccurring on a weekly basis, and our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday next week at the same time, 7:30. And we will stop recording here before we come together and join to say the Serenity Prayer. So